The story begins with a man whose mouth is bleeding, and everything around him feels like a beautiful dream. Before dying, his only wish is to destroy that dream and devour it. Standing above him is a blonde man holding a weapon, wearing a serious expression while a redhead wants to consume everything. Messed up by the stakes, the dying man keeps staring at the night, a bitter smile on his face and revenge burning inside him. He regrets his fate and thinks about all the different options he could have taken. The blonde man looks at his body, and feeling that the mission is close to complete, he shuts his eyes. A dark sense of peace washes over him once it's confirmed that the enemy is dead. The body explodes inside the hall in a burst of bright light. The knights step back and accept this ending as fair. Scene shifts. Nam Vian, a novelist, rubs his face in a darkroom. He feels a bit relaxed and thinks to himself that the villain's death means the series is over. He looks at his computer and decides to wrap everything up in the next chapter. As he stares at the screen, he regrets writing a story that went against his will. He stretches and feels excited that it's finally time to let everything go. Running his hands through his hair, trying to push back his past regrets, suddenly, he hears a sound that makes him turn around. Curious, he wonders where the sound came from. He spins his chair, feeling a little anxious. Someone coming this late at night felt weird. Cold sweat runs down his back. It's too late for visitors. He gets up, walks toward the sound, and asks, "Who's there?" But as he gets closer, the sound stops, confusing him even more. He wonders if the sound was even real or just a drunk yelling outside. He decides to ignore it, feeling uneasy, and chooses to go to bed. But as he turns around, he spots a glowing paper floating in the air near the door. Shocked, he watches it slowly fall to the floor. He picks it up and reads a message: "Help will come whenever needed." A dark energy starts leaking from the paper, making him step back. From the shadows, Arsene Adel, the villain of his story, appears. Vian is frozen with fear. Arsene smiles and says, "This is your death." He looks straight at the writer and says that he invested time and effort into this. He reveals that he spent 10 years preparing for revenge for his family. Surrounded by darkness, he blames Vian for his failure. Arsene reaches out and makes a request to the creator. Vian screams in pain as darkness wraps around him. Arsene, satisfied, says, "Now do this for me." The writer's face begins to twist, the image glitches, and a thought vanishes. A spider web appears, signaling a transition. A little later, Vian wakes up in a luxurious bed. Confused, he slowly opens his red eyes. Nothing makes sense. He sits up, holding his head, thinking maybe he just passed out. Even more confused, he looks around the room. It's completely unfamiliar. He sees fine clothes but doesn't recognize them. When he notices the fancy boots, he panics. He stumbles over to the mirror and seeing his reflection, he starts to freak out. In the mirror, he sees Arsene Adel's face. He recognizes the red hair and the cunning expression. The narrow eyes give it away. He opens his shirt and checks the tattoo size, and an ironic smile confirms it. He has become Arsene. As he looks toward the mansion during sunset, he remembers that his death is near. He recalls that this character was half demon, descended from a powerful bloodline. That bloodline was destroyed by 6 rival families. Now all that blood is inside him. He sits down near the door, slowly realizing the villain's real story. After failing his revenge, Adel pulled the creator into his own place. Thinking about it all, Vian reflects on his death and opens the status window. A screen pops up. He remembers this body was talented but still below heroes. With a small laugh, he thinks no matter how cool, villains can never win. Then he realizes he can't control mana, and panic sets in. Just when everything feels hopeless, he notices a glowing paper on the bed. Curious, he thinks, "What is this?" Then it clicks. It's the same paper he saw before Adele appeared. He picks it up, thinking it's useless, but then he remembers the message: "If you need to ask something, ask." When he looks at the paper, it's blank. He loses hope. Desperate, he shakes the paper. Fear creeps in that something's about to go wrong. But he feels relief when magical text appears. He reads the instructions. If you don't know how to use the gift, just write yes or no. He wonders, why are you calling me a creator? And blames the paper, thinking it's Adele's doing. But the paper just repeats the same instructions, forcing him to cooperate. He picks up the pen and writes yes. The paper reveals itself to be an information purchase system. It explains that it will answer his questions, some basic, some high cost. He writes his first question, how to return to the real world. The answer comes, it's impossible. Frustrated, he says he expected that, and now his only focus is survival. He asks how to use mana, and what are Adele's characteristics. After reading the content, he puts survival as his top priority. A blue aura surrounds him. The paper says this question is free, and this knowledge will now be printed onto him. The paper asks for confirmation. He smiles and writes yes. As soon as he feels mana flow, he extends his hand and creates a black sphere darkness, an ability that can erase all 5 senses. He considers it a small success, but still useful. His eyes glow red. Killing intent activates. He knows this power will work on normal people. Now he needs to understand how the position transfer 1 mechanic works. He remembers this ability lets him switch places with an object perfect for assassination. With a cunning smile, he notices it only covers a small area for now, but can be improved through training. He locks onto a piece of armor to test the technique. He focuses, blue aura flows from his body. The armor starts glowing brightly. In a second, both of them swap places. A crashing sound echoes. Dust and debris fly into the air. He lands in the place where the armor was, still aching from the dirt. He hears approaching footsteps, even lying on the ground. He gives a determined smile. He'll try it 100 times if needed. Under the sunset, knights approach. Their leader orders, this time, confirm he's dead. The cool night breeze shows the dark arson family mansion under a cloudy sky. In the hallway, heavy footsteps echo. Wearing armor and a red cape, an imposing figure enters. Captain Feltzov, the Count of Lion. He aggressively interrogates the servants about someone. Meanwhile, Adele is smiling. The servants say he hasn't moved in days. Feltz reacts with disgust to the disturbing info. He kicks the door open hard and enters with his knights. A young man is waiting for them, sitting with a sword on his lap and blue aura around him. Feltz calls him an obstacle and orders his death. The protagonist's red eyes start glowing. He marks the sword using his ability and instantly swaps places, appearing right in front of the enemy. With a precise strike, he slashes a knight's throat. Feltz and another man are stunned. The young man stands firm with a Hulk-style landing. Even as the enemy bleeds in front of him, the captain quickly orders, capture him now. The protagonist jumps out the window, leaving the soldiers behind. During the fall, he activates his swap ability again. He lands in pain just as a sword hovers above him. Wounded, he decides to run toward Arson Forest. Feltz sees him through the window and orders a pursuit. The forest is dark, filled with tall trees and thick vines. The young man keeps running, tired but determined. He thinks even if he escapes, he won't survive. He decides he must find the portal to the demon realm. Leaning against a tree, he wondered if those people would accept him. He was worried had they already found him. In the distance, the knights had spread out, searching. He stayed alert and urgent, eyes scanning for the portal. A branch cracked beneath his foot, and the sound echoed through the jungle. He froze, shock caught. A blue light indicated an approaching presence. Feltz emerged from the trees, sword in hand. The young man made another jump, barely escaping with a blue flash. He had only a few transfers left, so he had to act fast. Doubt began to crawl in. In desperation, he recalled the deal, but the cost was to hide. He tried activating something, but he didn't have the resources. An invisible force flung him into the air. He landed hard beside a tree. Feltz appeared before him, gripping a greenish sword, and in a cold tone, said that Adele would die here, soaked in blood. Adele mocked the captain's certainty. He picked up the magic paper and said he still had one option left, blue or a spread. Around him he was ready for his last resort. Feltz stared at him with hatred, but acknowledged his resolve. Adele responded by mocking the adults who were hunting down a kid. He teased, asking if Feltz wanted to be a babysitter, and even laughed. At the idea, angered, the captain shouted, "I'll pierce your heart with the Count's sword." He struck from above. Adele thought this is a valuable chance. The paper glowed brightly, blocking the strike. A faint, sky-like voice thanked him for the payment. It announced that the boy would now be guided to the demon portal. Adele smiled as he felt energy flow around him. Feltz watched in horror. His own weapon started glowing with magical light. In the distance, a massive red explosion erupted. Adele, surrounded by blue energy, activated the transfer and suddenly appeared in the sky near the explosion. Feltz was shaken. The captain shouted in desperation, begging him to stop. But Adele kept running, ignoring the monstrous squeal of a nearby boar. He spotted a red portal and confirmed he had found it. Feltz roared in anger, grabbed a tree trunk, and swore not to let him escape. Without wasting time, he hurled the trunk toward the boy. It passed through the distorted space. Adele narrowly missed being hit. Surrounded by blue light, he smiled and promised, "We'll meet again." Feltz clenched his teeth and watched as Adele vanished. Adele, wrapped in blue aura, floated into the flaming portal. Furious, the captain cursed him as he disappeared. The final scene showed an eclipse hanging over a deserted landscape. A lone stone pillar stood out in the dark environment, chewing on dried meat. Adele wondered how much time had passed. He remembered when he crossed the portal. He woke up in a dungeon made for demonic arts. It felt strange finding dried meat and a stone bed there, like someone was guarding a treasure. A stone guardian stood before him. He thought about the defective barrier and the mysterious owner of this place. He accepted the guardian looked scary, fighting it would be suicide. Nearby, a scroll was glowing intensely, grabbing his attention. The object warned him, "This is your only chance. The penalty is, you can only offer what you truly possess." He gave a forced smile, thinking the entity behind the message must be crazy, but also a little tolerant. Closing his eyes, he reflected on something that intrigued him. He spotted a stone wall. Something felt off. When he touched it, he sensed something like a deal beyond the wall. A message appeared, warning him not to interact with what was inside. Disappointed, he thought maybe the wall could have deactivated the barrier, and now that chance was gone. Standing in front of the glowing barrier, he decided he had to find another way out. On the ground, he saw a stone. He guessed it might have fallen from the guardian and could be useful. He used his skill, position transfer, designated target, and marked the stone. Then he activated position transfer move type. Fully confident in his plan, he turned back and sighed. The plan worked. The guardian woke up and charged with fang-like beards, catching him by surprise. Scene shifts to a dark castle beneath the eclipse. Inside the castle, a bucket fell and someone got scolded. Two servants were fighting in front of a horned figure. This figure was Crate, the patriarch of the Iber family from the Demon Kingdom. Entering his chamber, he said his daughter was soon going to invade a mid-level hidden domain. He admitted the situation was complicated. Sitting on the throne, he thought if his daughter wins, she get access to Saturn. But she won't follow his orders. An image showed a sad young woman holding a bloody sword, revenge burning in her eyes for the humans who killed her mother. Crate doubted whether she could survive in this place filled with ruthless demons. Just then, a servant came in, panicking, calling for the patriarch. With eyes half closed, Crate asked the reason. The servant apologized and reported that an unknown person had entered the hidden domain. Crate was surprised. Unauthorized entry? The servant confirmed. He asked who the intruder was. The servant explained an internal function had activated, but they didn't know who it was. Tapping his fingers, Crate guessed someone might have been forcibly summoned from the Gate of War. Without much concern, he said the intruder will die. Then he gave the order, focus only on his daughter's trial. The order was confirmed. Looking through the window, Crate thought if the intruder survives, he could become a portal. Back in the dungeon, the protagonist got blasted by a blue explosion and landed with a cry, half conscious. He realized he had fought a wolf and barely survived. Sitting down, staring at the Guardian, he thought even with the barrier gone, escaping was still tough. He remembered the Guardian was made of stone. With a small smile, he decided to try something new. He activated position transfer designated type again, marking the Guardian as the target. Grinning, he confirmed the plan worked. He swapped places with the stone wolf. Now the wolf appeared where he was before. The wolf was confused, trying to understand what just happened. Adele looked at the wolf and concluded this creature is done for. With the danger over, he started thinking about finding an exit, but then a new winged creature with red eyes appeared. He barely swallowed his shot. This enemy was more dangerous than the last one. The creature screeched and began chasing him. He figured out it worked by targeting specific intruders. Running through the dungeon, he remembered as long as there are targets in the traps, he can keep using transfer. Surrounded by blue energy, he sped up. Soon, he reached a large glowing. He stopped in front of the portal, where a voice was welcoming him. Confused, he wondered how an intruder could be welcomed. Standing before the portal, he suspected maybe this was the boss room and started thinking about what might be waiting inside. Just then, a death knight appeared. He tried to identify the creature. Tension built as he sensed that the knight's power felt similar to Felt's. Surrounded by a blue aura, the skeleton expressed respect toward him, while the designate skill activated. The monster pointed somewhere, and Adele dashed off, thinking he had found a treasure box. He reached a large ornate chest engraved with a black dragon. Seeing the dragon, he tried to recall where he had seen it before. As soon as he remembered the list of demon families connected to the 7 deadly sins, he was shocked. Krate's image appeared associated with pride and the black dragon. Bolton the pride, soaked in cold sweat. He cursed if he got caught, he'd be dead. He decided just open the chest and take whatever's useful and run. The moment he opened the chest, dark energy burst out. A shadowy thing grabbed his face, suffocating him. Groaning in pain, he tried to break free. He somehow broke out and fell to the ground, panting among the dark substance. Suddenly, he began to scream in pain as purple energy wrapped around his body. In desperation, he reached out. Blood splattered. A sign of a severe wound, he screamed, overwhelmed with pain. And something strange was lying beside him, using a dagger for support. He wondered how long he had been unconscious. Had he lost his left eye? Terrified, he felt something had changed in his eye. Maybe it had turned black. A window appeared and he suspected that the liquid had caused a transformation. A new race alignment and the Eye of Superbia appeared. The ability gave extreme vision and only activated when an enemy was killed. He smiled, confident that now he wouldn't lose to any weak group. He thought coming to the demon realm was the right decision. Getting up, he decided he had what he needed: time to leave. There was a door before him, engraved with dragons. He evaluated the options and the threat outside. With a resigned smile, he thought, if I go out now, I'll die unless I kneel instantly. He touched an insignia on his neck and decided to hide it. He knew being from the arson family was a death sentence. Just then, the Death Knight's voice came. Open the door. Hearing it, Adele trembled. The skull repeated the order, saying, His Highness is coming. Hearing that, Adele was even more shocked. He suspected this area might be part of the noble family's training domain. He decided to figure out who the owner was. He picked up a magic scroll to write, scared that he might have stolen a reward. He asked, what is the identity of the nearest person? But the cost was 100 gold coins or a relic item. Hearing that, he panicked. In despair, he offered 100% of his maximum mana, hoping he could recover later. The scroll accepted the offer and began draining his mana. Footsteps approached. The artifact revealed nearby Rainy, youngest daughter of Crate Bears. Hearing that, Adele was shocked. He was sure he was going to die now. He realized this domain belonged to Rainy, and the Eye of Superbia was actually her reward. He predicted the future. Rainy would defeat the Guardians and confront him. Rainy destroyed the Guardian in a single strike. Despite the danger, Adele decided I have to do something. He stood firm, fists clenched, waiting for the encounter. A young girl on horseback approached, staring at him with closed eyes. "Who are you?" she asked. Adele immediately dropped to his knees, showing submission. With a forced smile, he congratulated her on completing the domain and said she had proven her worth. Rainy, wrapped in dark aura, drew her sword and demanded an explanation. Soaked in sweat, Adele was assigned as her guard by the patriarch. He noticed she hadn't yet identified the Eye of Superbia. Rainy stared at him with her blue eye. Judging his words, Adele claimed, "No matter how I look, I'm skilled," and decided I'll use this girl to escape. Rainy looked at him with disdain, and Adele wondered if she was starting to doubt his words. He activated teleportation and swapped places with a thrown sword, reappearing suddenly in front of her, surprising her. Holding her hand, he asked, "How was the demo?" Fully confident now that he could protect her, but his action felt a bit annoying to her. She was afraid he might have gone too far. Crossing her arms, she grumbled, but let him believe she had forgiven him. Adele said they should leave now and told her to report to the patriarch. She agreed, as if she had some urgent business. Adele quickly opened the door and assured her, "I won't be late." Rainy looked at him with a mix of curiosity and surprise. Outside, he was confronted by her father, Crate, and his guards. Crate greeted him with a calculating glance and a faint smile. Seeing this, the protagonist was stunned, realizing Crate was her father. Nervously, he thought, "Why is the Lord here?" He started fearing the patriarch might discover the Eye of Superbia and kill him. Crate asked his daughter, "Did you complete the domain?" Hesitantly, she said yes. The patriarch gave an order, "Everyone, follow me," Adele quietly observed, trying to understand the order. Everyone began following the leader. Adele realized he couldn't escape or use a magic scroll now. He recognized the architecture and concluded this was the bear's mansion. Following behind Crate, they walked on. At one point, Crate told the guards to stay behind. Moving ahead, he told the protagonist, "Stay here." Adele thought maybe this was his chance to escape, but he noticed shadows watching him, so he dropped the plan. Scene shifts. To a room with large windows. Rainy formally met her father, who sat behind a table. Crate said, "You've completed your final task." When he said she would now go to the training center, Rainy hesitated. But with no other choice, she accepted. The patriarch stayed silent for a moment, lost in deep thought. Then he changed the topic and asked about the boy. Rainy remembered the fight and the meeting. Hesitantly, she said only one thing: "He's strong." Crate gave a faint smile. He found it interesting. He said, "For proving your worth, you may now access Satan." Rainy was shocked and excitedly thanked him. Crate reflected he had expected the intruder to die, but he survived and even took the Eye of Superbia. He also thought, "If my daughter has passed that boy, maybe he's useful." Meanwhile, the protagonist waited, unsure how much time had passed. A large castle stood under the evening sky. Inside, Adele was being guided through a corridor lit by a grand chandelier. A heavy door opened. The guide announced, "Visitor for the patriarch." Adele found himself standing before Crate, seated on a throne behind a table, his hands resting under his chin, nervous and soaked in sweat. Adele wondered, what is this man thinking? Standing on the carpet, Adele asked, "Why did you spare my life?" The patriarch gave a slight smile, wrapped in a purple aura, and then released a surge of purple energy, accusing him of deceiving his daughter. Struck by the energy, Adele winced in pain. Under pressure, he dropped to his knees. "Still," Crate said, "I don't intend to kill you." After some thought, with a subtle smile, he spoke again. Adele's face was tense, panting. Crate appreciated his cleverness and asked, "What's your name?" Still on his knees, Adele answered, "I'm Dull." Crate repeated the name, and dark energy began to form in his hand. He lifted Adele into the air. Adele was confused. With a sinister smile, Crate pulled him close. Terrified, Adele asked with difficulty, "What do you want from me?" Crate ordered, "Open your mouth," and began inserting a small dragon into a dot with a wicked grin. Crate said, "Just keep saying whatever you told my daughter." Choking in pain, Adele heard, "If you think of saying anything else, this poison will tear through your heart." Crate turned around and said, "I'll have a place prepared for you to stay until we meet again." Then he ordered, "Now get out of my sight." Adele was still on the floor coughing and sweating, shocked by what just happened. Scene shifts to the exterior of a house with lights on. The night sky visible. Inside, a man showed him his new room. He said goodbye and wished him rest. Adele reflected he had now become a dependent under the seat's will. Taking a deep breath, he thought, "At least I'm alive." But a feeling of being used gnawed at him. Sitting on the bed, he thought maybe being partially recognized by a demon isn't all that bad. Determined, he thought, "I need to get this thing off my neck." Hoping his plan would work. In his hand lay a tiny dragon-shaped creature, lifeless proof that his plan had worked. Seeing it, he felt a bit of relief, but also started worrying, how should I act now? Because if he killed the creature, the Lord would find out. Suddenly, the tiny serpent twitched and opened its red eyes. Adele realized it had awakened because the flow had been cut off. He offered it dark energy with his finger. The dragon licked the energy. He told it, "Go back to sleep." Lying on the bed, he finally relaxed, wondering how much of the trap on my neck has been removed. Exhausted, he felt like he could pass out any moment. Before passing out, he decided to check his status. A blue window appeared in front of him. He saw that his transfer level had increased to 2, but his mana was still negligible. He wondered how to increase it and kept reflecting until an idea struck. The scene cuts to Rainy, who didn't seem to like any of this. With an awkward smile, Adele recalled it had been 3 days since he had been assigned as her guard. As they walked through the garden, he noticed Rainy's behavior was cold and silent. Watching her walk ahead, he thought that the once cheerful Rainy had turned dark after her mother's death. Just then, a voice called out to both of them urgently. Surprised, he turned back and a messenger arrived, informing them that the patriarch had summoned them. Inside the room, both stood before a table where a discussion about a dangerous entry was going on. Crate, sitting on the throne, warned that chasing ghouls in the treatise lands was pointless. An uneasy silence fell over the room. Adele questioned his own presence. While Rainy was surrounded by a dense aura, Crate proposed a deal if a protector accompanied them. They might gain passage. Without hesitation, Rainy refused, making Adele feel like maybe she hated him. During a pause, the destination was explained: somewhere with a history of conflict, constant danger, but also promise for the youth. In a distant tone, Rainy asked why anyone would even want to go to such a place. Her words contrasted with Adele's hesitation. Adele smiled. He saw opportunity in adversity. Confident from what he knew about past conflicts, he accepted the condition but placed one request of his own. Crate's gaze locked on the young man, judging his audacity. Adele struggled to articulate what he wanted: something essential for his energy core. A subtle smile crossed the patriarch's face. He was surprised by the unusual request. A mutual tension built between the two. Both knew the other was hiding something. Crate laughed, called him insolent, but still granted the request. Rainy was dismissed, and she respectfully withdrew. As she left, Adele noticed her reluctance to join the journey. Left alone with the patriarch, Adele began to wonder what the promised gift would be. Crate revealed it was an ancestral treasure, protected and highly sensitive. He raised his glowing hand and said it was being given in exchange for a dark fate. Surrounded by purple light, the leader invited him closer to pass on an ancient art. Adele was stunned, wondering what technique he was about to receive. Immersed in the purple energy, he heard the echoes of some words in an ancient language like a prayer. He fell to his knees on the ground, exhausted, as the purple aura began to trap around his body. Crate smiled. Even in that intensity, he noticed Adele's resilience. There was something unique about the boy processing all the information. Adele was shocked to discover the divine origin of the energy. The patriarch mentioned an unexpected connection between bloodlines and archaic forces, which was confusing. With an enigmatic smile and glowing eyes, Crete revealed that he had already secured loyalty through his subtle and permanent method. In the silence, as Adele thought about the family information, he became confused. Something wasn't adding up. The audience ended, and he was granted permission to go his way. Sunlight filtered through the tense foliage. Amid nature, he tried to find focus. Sitting on a stone, he went into meditation. A confident smile appeared on his face. He had chosen a natural refuge to master his volatile energy. A dark aura began emanating around him, signaling the start of his practice. Surrounded by dark energy, he accepted that this new power source was irreversible. A determined smile reflected his acceptance. He had fully embraced this new path. Just then, from that aura, a dark and imposing entity emerged and spoke a word of contempt. Adele backed off in shock. He couldn't understand what this creature was. A colossal figure revealed itself and commented that his blood heritage was unexpected. Amid swirling energy, Adele asked the presence a question to confirm its identity. The glow in its red eyes intensified as the entity introduced itself as a primordial dat. Fear appeared on Adele's face as he questioned the intentions of the dat. The entity revealed a hidden reason for keeping him alive, which left Adele confused. It spoke of a strange affinity and then mentioned marking all who walked the same path. Amid intense energy, a mark was imprinted onto Adele's body, a symbol of power. But along with it came a warning against arrogance. He felt a new strength within him and realized the mark would grant him power at several moments. When he noticed the visual aspect of the mark, an ironic smile appeared on his face. Just then, a figure stepped out from the shadows, breaking the silence of the moment. With a sudden surprise, Rainey was watching him with a surprised expression. Her unexpected presence raised his concern. Had she overheard something? Her eyes widened when she heard Adele use an unexpected term. With a forced smile, Adele tried to process the situation. A bird sat on a branch, observing a distant building. The scene showed a peaceful moment. Sometime later, a display revealed Adele's progress with significant increases in energy and skills. Proud of his advancement, he showed off his achievements. He credited this growth to his qualities. With a radiant smile, he envisioned a future where he could break limits and conquer hidden lands with power. But just then, an immediate obstacle interrupted his thoughts. While training outdoors, people observed him with mixed reactions of amusement and irritation at his location choice. When he was summoned, he paused his training, feeling slightly caught off guard. Rainey responded with a slight hint of frustration. Adele felt relief seeing a change in her attitude. But he realized that this misunderstanding was because of his power. A faint smile appeared on Rainey's face, as if silently accepting that attributed identity. Adele thought this misunderstanding was convenient, but the social implications still troubled him. He called Rainey again. She reacted with a jolt at his voice and responded obediently with a smile.